All right, dude, we are live, I think.
Cool, cool.
Where's the stream link, bro? I always fuck this up every single time.
Just go. Yeah. No, just go to YouTube again in a new tab, and then just go to your my channel.
I'm such a fucking noob, bro.
Yeah, I got it.
All right,
Here.
good. So what's going on, guys? I'm Trader-Goo. I've got Trader Tristan on the line with me. Cover like a bunch of different assets today, starting with Bitcoin, ETH, Euro USD, Pound USD, Dollar Yen, crude oil, XAG, and that's pretty much it. And then anything else that you guys want to, fire at us, we'll kind of look at that too. So starting with Bitcoin. Not much has really happened. It's just been kind of consolidating since the last time we looked at this. It's respecting the range, but obviously not much has happened. To me right now on this, like on the daily, there's really nothing happening. I want to see a loss of this level here that it gained before price actually went up and took the stops, right? As we can see, there was like a lot of liquidity up here. Prices went and taken that. So for me at the minute, I want to see a loss of this level right now. Look at this in lower time frames and see if you can get a clearer picture of what's happening. At the minute, it's just kind of consolidating more. So ideally, I want to see it flip this level here and then go much lower for a bearish case. But honestly, this is like chop to me. I wouldn't trade this because there's no really real clear directional bias. So I honestly do think this can go with both ways. So I don't really want to talk about it. Tristan, have you got any thoughts on Bitcoin at the minute, or
Yeah. So,
let me
as I've been
maximize your
talking.
screen? Give me 2 seconds.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, go for it.
So Bitcoin, same thing. I mean, really range bound for the past literally 3 months, sitting upon the equilibrium, right? So if you know anything about how Gu and I both play this, when you break below your equilibrium point, midpoint of a range, it's pretty much implied that you're going to go to the bottom of the range, and vice versa. If you go to the equilibrium, you go to the top of the range. If you go above it, and if we do look at what would happen in the actual structure, if we were to potentially go below this equilibrium. So this is the big kind of SR flip. We do have these even lows here, right? We could say, okay, this is going to be a draw on price, and draw on price basically means we have to sweep out this low and run into really this 3250 area. However, let me actually make this. However, right now, due to the fact that we're above the equilibrium, I'm really inclined to honestly have bullish bias due to that. But I'm not touching this until we see a clearly defined break in either direction. For me, I did try to take a short 39.94, stopped at a break even on that on this move. Unfortunately, and ultimately, I'm just not playing this. There's too many other opportunities in other markets. This is, I mean, literally for the past 2-3 weeks, even it's been within $100 range. And yeah, you could play this, but Chop is designed to take your money, not give you money. Retail traders are get caught up in trying to trade, chop, and the money is not made in the chop. The money is made into the expansive moves. So leave the chop for the majority and become the minority, and that's how you become profitable. So until we can get a clearly defined break in the range, I'm really not interested in taking trading opportunities. If we did break bullishly and break above the range high, I'd be looking for a retest and then a take long to at least 4,800. Why I'm saying 4,800, if you just take an EQ of the entire move from 65 to 31, the entire expansive move, this entire wave, you could say, that would bring you back to 48, and you would expect short-term, at least, rejection from there before potentially filling the rest of the gap, inefficiency in price here, with 52 to 5,500. Right. So if I were to play this out, if we did go bullishly, if we did play the bullish scenario, it'd be a break up, a retest, and then a move to this wave here, 5,500, and then continuation lower to the targets that Gu and I have both clearly defined for quite some time. At least this 2,400 area. I just have a very
That's
low
honestly just so
probability.
generous. I don't even see it like
Yeah.
stopping there.
Yeah. Like it's extremely improbable that we don't come here, and if we just said about EQs here, if we break below 2,500, then we're gonna go to 1,800 because you go to the bottom of the range. You break below that, you're talking 1,200 and a full market cycle retrace. So these are targets to keep in mind. Obviously, put the market day by day, but for me, I'm just not interested in trading this until we see a clearly defined trend move at a minimum. So yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat regarding Bitcoin. I mean, if I pull up the BLX chart super quick and show you guys, I'm looking at the really hard time frames, right? I mean, screw everything on the daily, the 4 hour. Let's look at the monthly, right? If you look at this chart right now, it's gained literally no levels on the way up. It's all just a massive, void. It's completely void of support on the way down. So what does that mean? That means price can cut through it like it's nothing. And again, remember, this is monthly. We're not looking at the weekly, the daily, the 4 hour. We're looking at the monthly, right? To supersede everything. So for me, I mean, a pullback is possible. I don't really want to see it, but I don't really care. I don't even trade crypto anymore. I'm just completely Forex these days. So yeah. Can move on to ETH. This was like the last thing we looked at on the stream regarding crypto. I think I also looked at XRP, but we're not going to cover that today. So, I mean, at the minute, it's just range bound. It's following the chart pretty well. It's kind of sitting at the equilibrium. I want to see a little bit more displacement. It's the same as Bitcoin. I think everything's being held in a holding pattern, if you will. Second, we see like a break above. Then I'll be targeting these highs up here. I'd like to see a swipe up here to fill in this kind of inefficient move down here. Second, we see that, and we see like a gain of this level, then yes, it's possible it can go higher, but at the minute, I do want to see it go much slower. Where would I short it? I'd probably short it if you lost like at this level here, this box here. Reason why is because this led to the move up, which took out these highs, so it's a very significant level. If you see a break and retest, like a breaker almost, or sorry, like a demand zone pass-through block or whatever, because I don't want any copyrights, or sorry, or like even better would be like an SMFX broken liquidity base. If you see something like that happen, right? If you see something like this happen, right? Price comes here, tests it again, and then goes much lower. That's the ideal case for a short. If you don't see that happen, I'm probably not going to be interested in trading this. And for a long flip of this level here, probably long at least up to here, these highs are here. Have you got any thoughts on ETH, Tristan, or do you want to move on to the Forex stuff?
Yep. So on ETH, same idea, kind of sitting in slightly different. We're actually sitting on top of a range, in my opinion, right? Came back and retested EQ of this range. We're now sitting on top of the macro range. We do have a draw on price here, and obviously a draw on the price on the swing low, left an even low, and I can't get on this BitMEX chart, but on the if you go to another chart, I think we were looking at like $50 potentially. But upside, we did fill the weekly inefficiency, right, with this move, and then we had set daily highs that had to be taken. We did take them with an SFP here. So is the move potentially done? Yeah. Is there potential to go for 172? Yeah. Again, just not super clear. If you were taking longs, in my opinion, you'd be taking them at the top of the old range, 127, or the midpoint of the range, EQ, the range like 122. This would have been a great long opportunity. Stop loss if we lose on a high time frame this level, 122, and then you would expect them to take out these lows. Come and test 89 for a short-term bounce, probably to retest these areas around 120 and then move lower. So yeah, I'm not super intrigued with crypto at all, to be honest, at the moment. But if you were to play crypto, if you were to play a long opportunity on ETH, it would be 127 or 122, in my opinion. Stop below that 122 level, and if you lost that, you would expect them to come to the 89 or 90, retest, and then continue lower, taking out this draw on price. So yeah, that's my opinion on ETH.
Perfect,
US,
bro. Perfect. So yeah, so now we've got crypto out the way, we can actually get back to the real stuff. So the first thing I want to do is like talk about euro, then obviously pound and whatever, right? Ooh. Now with this Ponzi, right, this is fucking ridiculous. I think it's super bearish, and I think this is a good stream because Tristan and me have both opposing opinions on this, right? And I always love a debate like this. So look at this right now, right? To me, I think this is super bearish because we have this gigantic range, and I think we're coming back inside of it, right? Failed to bounce here. As we can see, we've tested this level a few times, right? This broken liquidity base, if you will. Tested it a few times, right? And typically when that happens, it's not a fresh level anymore, and we've consolidated below it. What's that going to mean for retail and breakout traders? They're going to think that this is a low. So there's going to be like a lot of algorithms and whatnot that get triggered. Give me 2 seconds. Right at these lows, right? And the second that happens, what's going to happen is like it's going to aggressively go lower. Alongside that, like, typically when a situation like this occurs, the market makers or whatever entity that moves price, because I don't want to, get into more Twitter drama than I already am in. So, whatever entity that's moving price, if they kind of push it down lower, right, it allows smart money or whatever entity you would kind of classify as smart money, right? Just whatever entity that is, it pretty much allows them to kind of take the retail stops and then exchange that for their longs, right? Remember, their positions are so big that like them buying is like, you can definitely see that happen. This is an example of them buying, right? So in an environment like this, they really do need all the liquidity they can, and the way they get that is by engineering the marketplace to look like this. So a lot of people do think that this is the macro low end. I definitely disagree with that. I think it's going to go much, much lower. And I mean, we can totally get rid of this chart because I mean, I'm not in this for color or anything like that. So if you look at the quarterly chart, right? We're completely void of support till we get down to here, right? There's like literally nothing holding price apart from this one pivot. And we've tested this so many times if you look at this right now. This level has been tested so many times. It's been tested once and twice, right? And it's starting to go deeper and deeper in. And typically when you see something like that happens, it means like this level is probably going to get exhausted, right? Now, the opposing argument of this one is like, we don't have any resistance on the way up either. And this is the quarterly chart. So if you go on something that's a little bit more usable, like the monthly, right? At the minute, looking at this small trend here, I do want to see it come down and flip this level and go much lower. That's what I'm counting on at the minute. However, the weekly, that's where stuff starts getting a little bit more confusing, right? If you zoom out again on the monthly, and then actually define our range high, which is roughly, I'd say here, right? Go on lower time frames like the weekly, and look at what's happening. As you can see, price is like hinging off these levels. It's pushing away, right? It's coming back down, it's taking liquidity, right? It's running sell stops, right? So typically when you see something like this, the market's bearish. And the only way for me to, flip my bias on this is if you like lose like an important level. Now for me, the trend is starting here, right? So any kind of like bullish momentum above this level here, roughly at 1.4683, that will change my mind. But at the minute, I'm not too keen on it. I do want to see it go much, much lower. And if you kind of break this down on a daily chart, right? What's kind of really, really obvious to me that I just don't think a lot of people looked at is this level here. All these down candles that led to the move up and have, ran stops. And as you can see, it's not been tested yet. Now, this is a broken liquidity base, wink, wink. Now, for that reason, I do want to see it come test that level. The second we see that kind of thing happen, I'm looking at something like this to happen. Go in the 4-hour time frame. As you can see, it's taking a lot of liquidity up here, right? Now, this trend is super, super, super obvious, right? Typically, when something like this is this obvious, let me make this black so it's a little bit more obvious, if it wasn't as obvious as it was already. So yeah, this trend is super obvious, right? Typically, when we see something like this happen, the smart money entity or whatever is controlling price, that's going to push price down and hunt all the retailers. Reason why is because they look at this and they want to be like, most retail traders look at this kind of pattern and they essentially look at this and think, okay, let me jump in here and let me keep longing and then trailing my stop loss up, right? So now if you're retail, and when I say retail, I'm a retail trader, Tristan's a retail trader. We're talking in terms of a retail-minded trader, right? We don't trade them like most guys. So their stop loss is going to be here, and down here. So what's the market going to do? Do you think the market's going to let them get up there? No, it's not. It's going to reject it here, take stops here, go much higher, and then from there go much, much lower, flip this into resistance, and then go back down to our macro target down there. That's what I want to see the price doing. It doesn't mean we'll see that, but that's just what I'm looking at the minute. And again, on a more intraday basis, if you kind of look at this on like an intraday level and hourly, it's super, super, super obvious, right? And the last time we've seen something like this happen, I'm pretty sure you guys all know what happened, right? If you look at Bitcoin on the daily, look at like the 7.4 level roughly here. When we see like an elevator, not an elevator, I can't remember the word. I'm pretty baked. So this level, like when you see something like this kind of happen, right? When price climbs up and then it aggressively expands away from it, right? Typically when something like that happens, it's a very clear sign that they're just trying to engineer liquidity, right? And I think EURUSD in this case is trying to do just that because we have all this Brexit news as well. So it adds like another dimension to this whole, this whole kind of manipulation that we're going to see. I personally not bullish on Euro. I do think it can go a little bit higher. That's because of Dixie, but I'm not too keen on jumping in for longs. Personally, I think the high of the week is in for Euro, given the fact it's a Wednesday and we've seen this happen in London. For break this down, actually, let me show you guys my normal chart we're trade off of because it's going to get super, super messy, so just be prepared. Give me 2 seconds. Let me pull the chart. EURUSD. Oh, all right, never mind. It's always during streams, man. It's literally always during fucking streams. Something retarded happens every single time.
It's funny because when I give my opinion.
You cut out, bro.
Opinions. I said when I give my opinion, we have like the exact opposite opinions of Euro.
Yeah.
It's gonna be yeah.
So to me, I think if we see a loss of this level down here, I think it's gonna go much, much lower because to me and due to measured moves, I do think it's done the high for today. And given the fact it's a Wednesday too, I do really think it wants to go much lower. Can it go higher? 100%. I can definitely be wrong. Tomorrow's London session is pretty much going to determine it for me. This level, roughly around here, is what we're looking at on this chart here. This demand zone or whatever. I'm pretty sure you guys know what I'm calling this, but yeah, whatever. So that level is what I'm looking at right now. I want to see a test of that level, and if you see that, great, and if you don't see that, still great. I do think it wants to pull back before it does that, because when you look at like any kind of normal trend, right, the kind of fractal nature of trend, it always likes to do this kind of thing, right? It likes to, you know, do something like this, go sideways, expand, do a pullback, and then go higher, then go much lower, flip this level it did the pullback at, and then go much, much lower. This is like a bearish kind of fractal, in my opinion. So I think this is exactly the profile that we are in Euro right now. I do think we're going to see this kind of thing happen. Right now, I think we're here, and I think we are going to make a new high eventually. I don't think it's going to be this week. It could be next week, and I could 100% be wrong. Now I'm going to pass it over to Tristan because he definitely has like a more bullish opinion on Euro. So.
All right, so all right, my screen's up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So, looking at Euro, let's start with the monthly. Let's zoom this out. So obviously Euro at the moment, a lot of people looking for this 109 region, and is 109 in play in my book and still bullish 100%. Could it happen? Sure. But for me, we're sitting on top of the range, right? If I take the monthly chart and I look at, first high, second high, so this is going to be your top of range. We're completely sitting on top of the range. We ran the stops below, and we'll talk about where we wound up finding support in a second. So until we break into this range and actually get closes below pretty much this 111, 112 area, I'm bullish biased due to the fact and due to a variety of reasons. The first is if we go to daily time frame and we look at the structure. This was very ascending price action, right? Very corrective ascending price action. It sells off. If you know how I trade, that's a big part of how I trade, looking at corrective and impulsive price action, expansive retracement, the difference between the two. So now looking at the price action, right, what could we say is happening? Well, it'll be quite the opposite, right? We pretty much have descending compression. And if you know how a support level holds or why a support level holds, it's due to the fact that you have some type of compression in price, which is going to result in you breaking the compression. Like if you think about you have a support level and you come straight down to the support, all that's going to happen is some type of short-term bounce. And this is where you get a lot of people what they call a bear flag and then continuation, right? But if you look at price action and it comes down in the form of some type of descending compression, what's going to happen is a reversal in price because the same force is being applied. It's physics, but that's going to break the pattern. It's going to reverse trend, and then you're able to break to the upside. So now that we know that and we look at this is descending compression, right? We know that the price action is descending and getting ready to expand up. If we look at what we had in actual structure, we had these even lows here. These even lows were ran. Then we came up and I was expecting slightly higher, like 1144, big figure. We came up to the 4-hour level at what the exact number was, but it was somewhere around, it was 1.1420, right? We came up and tested this, got a quick reaction, and then closed back in the range, creating a swing failure, and then wound up dropping extensively. Right? This is where I basically took 50% off of my position that I was long on from back over here, right? Because we had basically ran these stops and came into a 1-hour level over here. I longed this area, and then we continued higher. I closed 50%, and the other 50% I just broke even on when it came back down, right? Because I kept it in play. Now I am long again from 1.18 approximately. And the reason for that is we have this prior consolidation area from when is this? May and June of 2017. May and 2017, in which we basically consolidated for quite some time and then resulted in a continuation higher. Now, what we have done, right? And if we let's move this box really quick. We're basically sitting on top of the EQ of this old range, right? This old cluster of orders. And that means that we're going to eventually continue higher, right? In my opinion, we've come back, we retested, we found support on that zone, right? Pretty much within a pip or two. And now we have quickly expanded away from that area, which is, in my opinion, pretty bullish. So what I want to see is obviously a few things. Right now, I actually think the price action is pretty bullish where we are. We're sitting above where my first take profit was for 25% at this 1.29, 1.13 big figure area, right? And so now we're sitting above that. And I really think that, first of all, we have all this low time frame resting liquidity at these swing highs, right? Think about if you were short from up here, right? If you were short in this range, or you broke out short and you just rode this down, where are you trailing your remaining position? Well, the proper way to trail a position, even how I trail, is above, in this case, above your prior swing highs. So this is an entire inefficiency, which we were retracing through, which is how the algorithm for price works. It's how price is delivered. You retrace to retest your prior accumulation or distribution, which anyone that doesn't understand that an order block or which people like to say they own the terms
Sir,
to.
a demand zone. A demand zone.
Yeah, it's simply, and let me, ladies and gentlemen, let me explain something to you. Anyone that's sitting there and saying they own the rights to an order block is completely moronic, and he can come at me. I don't care, because all an order block is a high time frame compressed view at a low time frame range. Because an order block, if you zoom down, you'll see it was a range. And you guys, you know what a range is, or quote unquote consolidation in the algorithm? It's simply accumulation or distribution. And so you're coming back to retest accumulation or distribution, because that's how the market it works. You need to come back to exit hedged positions, because when they're suppressing price in a range, they have to hedge positions. They have to suppress price by hedging positions, and those hedged positions need to come back, be exited, and then continuation can occur. So exactly, Joey Patterson, but whoever we shall not name thinks he can cease and desist people for saying the word. Anyway, so we now have low time frame resting liquidity above these two swing highs. We also have this small time frame little inefficiency here that hasn't been filled all the way. And this order block, range has been retested, right? This is now being retested. And we're seeing that we're finding support above the area of which we should have been slapped down, in my opinion. Okay. So I'm pretty bullish on Euro short term. I think that I'm going to be taking most of my position off from down here at this yellow line at 1.136 big figure. But I am very bullish on Euro large term. Do I think we could have one more swing low? Sure, it's possible. We could even get some type of run on the stops down here and then push higher. And that's entirely possible, and I'm ready for that. But I do think Euro is going to fill the rest of this move up until 1.175. You can call me crazy, but I really do think until this invalidates, because once we invalidate this block here, once we lose this equilibrium at 1.12 big figure, we're going to go for 1.09, right? We're going to go for 1.09, your monthly range, and we'll see what happens at that point. If we're bullish, we'll definitely find support there. If we lose that, then this thing's going to break the lows. But until we lose this 1.12 figure, I am bullish inclined, and that's what a daily close, weekly close. I'm bullish inclined, and I think we're going to finish filling the rest of this inefficiency, which we failed to do back in October of 2018 and from our swing high distribution in September of 2018. And then if we get up there, you got to say, okay, we also have these equal highs here. Could we go for even higher? 100%. We could potentially go for 1.19, right? And retest this redistribution. That's also in the cards, but we'll play step by step. These are very macro views. I am bullish inclined, and I am up 100 pips on Euro at the moment, riding. So
Good work,
I really could give a shit if it wants to retrace. If it did retrace, where I'd like to see it retrace to short term, if we did lose this level, would be the EQ, which we've already tested on a low time frame. We could get a macro pullback. If you understand how these tests occur, you're gonna get a low time frame test, which is your like buying scalp intraday type of opportunity, and then your high time frame retracement. That might take some days back down to this level. That would also be a buying opportunity for upside, because your stop's easy. Your stop's below the equilibrium, below these swing lows here, and then you're gonna potentially ride that up to the upside. So that's my opinion on Euro USD.
Great, bro. Great. I like how in-depth that was. Let's move on to Pound USD. Now, this has been a fucking Ponzi, especially today. Like, I was scalping this morning before London Open. The most retarded idea possible. Like, literally, I would definitely not recommend scalping Pound USD before London
I won't
Open.
touch it, dude.
What's up?
Don't touch it right now.
Oh, yeah, right now it's a fucking mess. Like, it's been absolutely nuts. It actually fucked up my hit rate for today, but it's all good. I still closed positive, so that's all that matters. Let's get rid of everything on the chart. Honestly, I do think it's going to go much, much higher. I don't know how that's going to work with Dixie per se, but I think Euro and Pound are going to be effective with Brexit, and I think that's what's going to manipulate price. Monthly time frame, we can see this level here. Prices came in, tested it, and as you can see, it's respecting, it's aggressively moving away from it. Now, for me, that's a pretty good sign it wants to go higher. Given the fact the whole Brexit meme, I do think it wants to come here, test this level, because this is, the other charts is completely missing off our resistance on the way up. Typically, when we see something like this, price is going to want to go in and fill in that inefficiency. Now, what's troubling me is the fact that I don't think it's going to go break this high. I do think it's going to come down and make a new low. And reason because is, like, look at this. It's so fast and expansive, relative to this move. I do think it's going to be a slow grind up there. Maybe a fast wick with some retarded Brexit news. I honestly don't know. I mean, this is right now in the same category as something like Bitcoin to trade. And I even think Bitcoin's a little easier than Pound USD at the minute, just because it's such a mess. I mean, right now it's currently sitting in this range, and as we can see, it's poked its head above that range a few times. So typically when something like this happens, it's going to want to take that range. Now, the reason why it's being held here is probably because of Dixie and, you know, Brexit news. I do think they're going to push it up, and they're going to push it with like a lot of momentum. I don't think it's going to be slow. I think it's going to be a very fast, expansive, rapid move up there, and then, you know, followed by there and a small correction, and then further move lower. Now, the reason why I'm so bearish on this is because I'm really bullish Dixie, and I'll show you the correlation in a minute. But 3-day chart, anything different that we can see here? Not really much, apart from these relatively equal lows. I do think price is going to want to come test that at some point. Now, if I look at this on the daily, and then I'll show you my intraday chart too, right? Because I've been day trading a lot recently. So if I sound tired, I'm fucking exhausted because I've been waking up for London. But, you know, looking at this right here, right? What I was actually wanting to see today was price move aggressively to this level, claim this high. It failed to do that, and then USD didn't really, you know, it did not dump that aggressively, and that's what's troubling me with this entire market today. It's not being, you know, I want to say symmetrical. It's not being really that symmetrical. So I've really only been trading Swissy and a lot of silver recently, just because the rest of the market's not making much sense to me. I don't know if that's because of, you know, Dixie or because of Brexit or the combination of both, or even the SPX. I think it's probably a mix of both, given the fact, you know, given the weights of Dixie. But, you know, moving back to the analysis, as we can see, it gained this level here, right? Now, let me quickly show you what it did in the lower time frames. Now, if you look at this in the 4-hour and lower, as you can see, it's gained another level at that daily level. Now, this is really, really bullish. Typically, when something like this happens, price is going to respect that. That's going to be another consolidation as Tristan was talking about. So for me, because it's tested this level up here, and it's failed to close above it, and we've also taken out this, forming a swing high up here, as long as we break this level, I want to see a small pullback down to that level here, 1.31471. Ideally by the next week, right? I want to see price come down here. I want to see something like this happen in terms of structure. Price maybe goes higher. It's cool if it doesn't. I don't really care. I'm going to be intraday trading this anyway. Does something like this, breaks this level. This is a significant level because it caused a shift in market structure relative to this level here, right? And also ran these stops up here and tested this level. So before this, it wasn't really in resistance, and this is the level that pushed into resistance. So that's why this is very significant for me. Now for me, I want to see that level get flipped. Second that happens, it turns into like an SR flip or a pass-through block or a breaker or whatever the fuck you want to call it. It's all the same concept, right? So I want to do something like this, test this level that it's probably going to gain another level here, right? If it does do what I'm thinking it's going to do. And if that's the case, it's going to do something like this, go much lower, test this level, and then go much lower, then higher. I do not want to see it go lower than this low. If it goes lower than that low, I do think we're going to make new lows. And the reason why is because if you look at Dixie super quick, actually, you know, look at the higher time frames, I don't think this is done yet. Reason why is if you look at the weekly and the monthly, you know, we are trying to approach this inefficiency here, as you can see, at 98 big figure. I've been saying this for months now. It's kind of like, it's kind of getting old saying this, right? It's kind of like my old Bitcoin charts. I say the same thing again and again. And you know, it's pretty much the same thing here. I do think it wants to go much higher. It's testing current support. You know, at what point am I wrong? I'm wrong if it goes below this level. If it flips this level here, I'm 100% wrong, right? But then again, this is a weekly chart, so we have to give it a little bit more time before we can kind of, you know, confirm it wants to go lower. I mean, at the minute, it's still resting in this level here. Now, if you kind of look at the chart, right? Pardon the lag, by the way. It panned out pretty much perfectly from when we last looked at it, right? Which was last week. We've seen it pull back down here. Not as deep as I'd like it, but we've still seen it pull back down there. Now, what really stands out to me for levels right now on Dixie is this level that nobody's looking at. And this is why I'm really bearish on pound at the minute for like a short-term trade, along with euro. This down move, sorry, this up move that led to the move down, which broke market structure relative to this entire move here, right, on lower time frames. It will make more sense if I show you in the 4-hour. As you can see, before here, it could have been a pullback, and then it was like a much deeper retracement. As you can see, hits that range as Tristan mentioned, and expands heavily away. Now, it's in the same thing here, as you can see, right? Now, I really do want to see it come down here, test a little bit lower, maybe down here. I like this level a lot, this gap. Even over here is pretty good, right? And I want to see it expand heavily away. Now, what's making me really bullish on Dixie over everything else, and this is why I'm really bullish Euro, because I'm not actually bearish Euro, apart from the whole Brexit stuff. I'm really bullish Dixie, so that's what's kind of superseding my opinion on Euro. Now, for this leg down here is very, very corrective in my opinion, right? Reason why is because if you look at this and compare it to this leg here, this is like a fucking Bitcoin dodo move, right? And, you know, if you compare these two together, this is a much more efficient move, but this is still, you know, missing a lot of support and resistance on the way down. So we see something like this happen, especially in the lower time frames. We're talking like the hourly and then the 5 and the 1 minute. Yeah, we'll actually break this down in the 1 minute because why not, right? You can see it's gained this level here, And the second we see a flip of this, I'm pretty much going to short euro, because if you see like a gain of this level here, I do think it's going to go much, much higher and at least take out these highs here for a minimum. I actually think it's going to hit 98 in the next month, right? And reason why is because of SPX and a bunch of other stuff too, but mainly because it's so close to this level, it's looking super bullish on the higher time frames. So we're not talking the daily, the weekly, the 15-minute, we're talking like the weekly and the monthly, right? So for that reason, I do think it wants to go much higher. We have a lot of support as it's currently testing too. A lot of liquidity has been taken. As we can see, these equal lows have been cleared without any kind of, response. It's not really responded to that. Typically, as Tristan was mentioning, when you see like a run of equal lows, you see like a fast, like expansive move away, right? We haven't seen that yet. So personally, I think they're going to do some sort of weird manipulation thing. And I think this also could be due to like pound and euro, because they also are, majority of the weight of Dixie. So it puts us in a really weird place in terms of the market, right? And that's why I've been day trading so much more the past couple of weeks, is because of that. Now, looking at this structure here, how would I trade it? I probably wouldn't, to be quite honest. I think one more swipe down is possible, but it doesn't really work well with euro. You can see what I mean, right? So at the minute, I'm not even trying to predict what Dixie's trying to do here. I'm trying to wait for a break of that level we talked about, which I think was up here somewhere, right? But for the sake of this, we'll just use like a much more intraday level. This up move that led to the move down, right? If you see a break above that, and I'm not talking like a small poke its head above it, I'm talking like a proper full-blown reclaim of that level. And then this is the key point. If you see a swing low down here, right? If you see a swing low down here, I'll probably put my stop here and then long it. But obviously in this case, I don't really trade Dixie. You guys all know this, right? I trade like a lot of Swissy and EURUSD. So how would this relate to EURUSD and Swissy? In this case, I'd pretty much short EURUSD. And if you look at euro, look where it's currently sitting. It's waiting, in my opinion, right, for like a move down. So in terms of the correlation, I really do think it wants to go lower. Can I be wrong? 100%. Like, I can change my bias all day. There's nothing wrong with that, right? There's nothing wrong with being wrong. If you find anybody who actually gives a shit about being right, I can guarantee you they're not making money. Because anybody that's actually trading has been wrong a fucking 1,000 times. So it shouldn't even faze them, right? Down here, a lot of liquidity, as we talked about on Dixie. I think at least this level will get reclaimed. A minimum of that, even for a pullback, is definitely possible on EURUSD. In terms of Dixie, that's going to be this level here. And if you kind of look at pound USD in relation to all of this as well, right, to kind of drive like a bigger picture, as you can see, it's the same level down there. So I really do want to see a run of this level here, and obviously on Dixie that high. Does that mean it'll happen? No. It can happen tomorrow, it can happen next week, but I do think if we get like a reclaim of this level, the odds are heavily going to be in our favor for price going much, much higher, and at least taking out these highs here, if not much, much higher than that. Now, for one more kind of point of confluence, I'm going to quickly show you guys oh my bad. I should quickly show you guys a silver chart, right? I think silver is approaching resistance for like a macro short, right? And this is tying in very well with what Dixie is doing in euro as well, right? Reason why is because, as we can see, remember we talked about this, right? Price goes up, retracement, another high, pull back, and then flip of that level. Now, if you look at this, what's price done here? Well, it's not actually made a macro higher high, right, in terms of the body close. It's actually went and taken the stop. So this is technically a higher high, right? And as you can see, it's left this level here. And I do think when you tie everything in together, not just looking at one pair, it does definitely want to seem like it wants to go lower. If this wants to go lower, and obviously this is a second pair, and it's always, but a lot of people, I get some DMs I can show you guys, but the point is that a lot of people do, neglect the fact that the second pair is USD. So if that's the case, and we can see, euro going a little bit higher and Dixie going maybe a little bit lower, right? If you can see that thing kind of happen, then is it really that hard to kind of believe that, silver can go up here and then go much, much lower? No, it makes a lot of sense actually, because you can see a lot of equal lows here, a lot of liquidity. I don't think it's going to be a clean move during, throughout this whole thing, but I do think from here on onwards, I think it's going to easily take that. And then from there, it might want to grind a little and go up and down like that and gyrate so much more compared to like a very expansive move. So to sum this all up, I want to see a very expansive move here. I want to see a small grind up here by Tuesday or Wednesday next week. And then I want to see Dixie also give us some sort of bullish signs. And if we see that, then that's great. And if we don't see that, then we just flip our buys. It's that simple. And I mean, I'm not here to, spoon feed you guys like fucking calls or anything like that. I'm just trying to show you, that what's possible for the market to do. And we're never going to sit here and try to predict the market, because predicting the market doesn't make any money. Because I have 350 like ideas here I can show you, and I can like flex them, but that doesn't prove shit. Like, it doesn't make you money at all. And I think a lot of people, especially if you're new to the market, are going to be confusing being right with actually making money. Like, I should probably do like an equity curve thing, like end of this week. And I'll show you guys, like, I've been wrong so many times. I lost like 50, 60 pips this morning, but I've made it up with like 10, 15 pip scalps. And a lot of this has to do with stuff like, risk management and position sizing. And we'll touch on that later. But without further ado, Tristan, do you want to take over?
Yeah, so
Let
let me
me
give my thoughts on Dixie because
let me pull up your chart, bro.
ooh,
That's you, homie.
all right, so taking a look at the weekly month, right, as Goo mentioned, distribution high here, and we do have the daily and weekly inefficiency that we need to finish filling and the untested level, right, on the weekly here. It's all lining up, range or consolidation that we need to test. We have the even highs, right, which is a drawn price. People are going to see this as extremely bearish, as do most traders. They see double top, triple top. They say, oh, that is, that's bearish. It's time to short. In reality, that is how liquidity is built. Think about where your stop losses are. If you're shorting this high, they're above. That's why you build a liquidity pool. That's why it gets taken, because that is the easiest liquidity for institutional traders to enter and exit the market. And so, yeah, I 100% agree. 98.50 is in play. Shorter term, though, I'm looking slightly lower. I'm thinking that we're going to come down to 96.23 and test this on the 4-hour, right? You can see that we need to come down and test this breakaway point here at 96.25, let's just say. So I do think we're going to come down there. Also looking at the price action, it is getting toppy, right? It's just the inverse of what we saw in Euro. You're getting some type of ascending compression, which is going to sell off, in my opinion. And I do believe that Dixie has more, after we hit 98.50, 98.60, I think that Dixie has a lot of lows to sweep. I think you have your lows at 95. I think you have your lows at 93 and your lows at 94. All these are going to be draws on price. These are even lows. These are even lows. This is just two swing lows that should be taken. And ultimately, I mean, it's like I saw in Euro, we have inverse opinions because Dixie is pretty much inverse Euro and Euro's inverse Dixie. So we're not going to agree with each other on both of them. Is the fact that we have this old range here, which has not been filled. Right, this old range hasn't been retested. You also have these 2 weeks of impulsive price action that hasn't been filled, the inefficiency here, right? This price action getting very, very corrective. You have corrective within corrective. This is corrective, all of this, right? And then if you go to your lower time frame, yeah, exactly. This is also corrective. I think we're gonna get one more high to 98. After we see 96.20, which lines up right with Euro coming up to, what do we say, short term, 1.136. That would line up with our Dixie thoughts, right? And I think we can get a potential new leg on Dixie to finish filling this block. And then from there, I'm looking bearish on Dixie, to be honest with you. I think that Powell, this is my thought process, guys. So if we think about just the state of the economy as well, more than just the chart, the actual fundamentals for this, because it is semi-important. Dollar loses strength when they lower interest rates. And if we do go into another global crisis, recession, depression, economic crash, what's going to happen is they're going to have to put the interest rates back down. Now, they kept them at 0 for so long, for about 10 years after the panic of 08, whatever, the Great Recession, whatever you want to call it, that when we do have another economic crisis, and now that we're just starting to get out of that, as far as the interest rate problems, I think they're going to actually have to potentially put it in negative interest rates, and that is going to destroy the value of the dollar. It is going to take a huge toll on it, and that would be lining up with the thought process that we'd come back down to a 90 or even lower. So yeah, I'm actually extremely bearish on both euro and dollar in themselves. Or I think euro is going to struggle as well, but I think dollar is going to struggle more than euro, which is why euro will see upside. Comparative to Dixie after 98, 99. I just genuinely think that as soon as we do have a recession, the first thing the Federal Reserve does is lower interest rates. That is the first thing. It stimulates economic growth. So if we do even have a depression, which is on the cards, so every 80 to 100 years, there's a fiscal reset. We're on par for that. It's going to get ugly. And who knows, Dixie could even sweep these lows. So that's my thought process on Dixie. After 98, 50, 99 area, I am extremely bearish. I have seen the argument for potentially to come back to this 110 even. I could see it if we can flip a level in this area, if we could flip this, but ultimately that would mean that we would have to just postpone the next recession, which is possible because they are inflating the markets right now. The entire market is being like held up by the arm, yeah, like an iron fist, and as soon as it breaks, I mean, it's gonna shatter bad.
Yeah.
But do they postpone this as much as possible because it's inevitably coming? For if we're gonna go here, it's gonna be another that we're not gonna have some type of recession, and I can't feasibly think that that's possible, due to the fact that we're already, what are we, overdue by about 2 years? We're overdue right now, so 3 years. So yeah, that's my thought process that's there on Dixie and also the economy.
I actually agree with your macro outlook on Dixie. I think after a fill of 98, because it's filling a level, like typically when price fills in inefficiencies like that, right? What that typically means is it's doing a pullback. And you look at this, as Tristan mentioned, it is quite corrective up here, right? Now, on lower time frames, it's obviously a little bit more impulsive, and obviously that's going to happen because, a macro versus micro, it's kind of looking at like a 1 minute chart, comparing that to like a 4 hour chart. It's going to be a bit of a difference, right? So I do actually agree with him. I do think once it fills that level, it could flip over, but maybe it's because I live in the UK. I don't know what it is, but I just don't see Euro going higher. And obviously, it's good to have another opinion because it keeps it fresh. And in terms of
it's the same thing. I don't see Dixie going higher. We're skewed to both our economies. Shit. Yeah. But the truth of the matter is which one's gonna be less shit? And I see Joey
Pound
Patterson
is fucked. Let's be honest, bro. Pound is completely fucked. Like, it's ridiculous.
I see Joey Patterson has a good point, and he says problem is the U.S. crisis will be indicative of overall global financial crisis. 100%.
Yeah.
So actually, Asia is gonna lead the quote unquote global recession or depression.
Mm-hmm.
Asia has huge problems right now, starting now. And like Singapore, I think they just, the third straight time they released terrible numbers. And I don't agree though that they're going to go into dollars, because what's happening is, if you look back at the Russians in the late 1990s, when they defaulted on their debt, everyone, and I forget the firm, there was this big firm, and everyone was investing in it. I actually saw a video on it. I can't remember the name, but he was quote unquote like one of the best traders. He had all these Nobel Peace Prize economists in there and all these guys in there in the firm, and they had billions of dollars, and they were so good that after like a few years, they were literally doubling, tripling, quadrupling in an institutional level, like with billions of dollars. They were doubling, tripling people's money. Insanity. But they lost it all almost on that Russian thought process, because they thought Russia is just going to keep printing money. They're not going to default, just like everyone views the Americans, right? Everyone views that America is safe to invest in, even though we have this constant, endless stream of just trillions and trillions of dollars of debt being printed. We'll just keep printing money, right? We're never going to default for debt. And they thought the same thing. That's why they actually basically longed the Russian ruble, or whatever it is. And that failed. And they did default. They didn't keep printing money. And those guys went. They lost billions of dollars. And so I think a lot of people are going to think the same about the US dollar, because it's been the case for so long. But ultimately, I think the US dollar is going to, or I think the US is going to default on their debt eventually. And when they do that, that'll be when a depression occurs. And like I said, we're on par for a depression. And I could sit here and tell you some crazy SPX numbers that I have, but I'd call it fodder. Like, I could see SPX breaking '08 lows. If and when it happens, I'm looking at 400, okay, if we had a depression. So this is big theory. This could be 10 years from now. I'm not saying it's going to happen tomorrow. I'm not trying to, scare people, but it's inevitably going to happen. And everyone that sits here and says to themselves, guys, it can't happen in our lifetime. This time's different. That's my fear. No. This time's different. This time's different. But look at the world today. We couldn't have a depression. The world would end. People thought the same shit 100 years ago, guys. Come on, let's be real. After the booming 20s, roaring 20s, 1920s, everyone didn't think a depression could happen. No, who thought a depression could happen? Did you know, like 50 years earlier, U.S. was in a deflationary period, and all the farmers went broke, and that was the reason that the Federal Reserve couldn't bail out. All right, we're gonna have an economy lesson. All right, so in the late 1800s, the United States went through a deflationary period, and the farmers couldn't even break a profit. They couldn't even break even on their produced goods, but they needed to keep producing agriculture, right? In order to keep producing agriculture, we need to eat. So they had to do it. And so what the banks did was they gave all these farmers loans so they could survive. right, and pay for, pay for growing these crops and such. And ultimately, that actually was the catalyst that caused the Great Depression, because then in 1907, after the Panic of '07, and the Federal Reserve was created because JP Morgan actually had to bail out all the banks for another reason, because of manipulation, and basically someone crashed the market. And so they act as the Federal Reserve, or the Federal Reserve acts as the last resort. Gold, that's why they're created. And in the 30s, when we have the Great Depression, the panic, and the stock market crashes and everything, the banks are defaulting, and agriculture was a dying sector, obviously, and they couldn't repay the loans that they had given them 50 years earlier. So the banks are going to default on that, and the Federal Reserve basically decided we can't bail out the banks for two reasons. One, there was liquidationist theory, the thought process that we grew too quickly, we needed to kind of slow back, come back, slow down. And the second reason would be that if they did bail out those banks, they'd be bailing out something they would never get, basically bailing out and inevitably going to fail anyway. So all those banks went bankrupt. They all went belly up, or most of them. And that resulted in the Great Depression. If the Federal Reserve actually was able to act as the quote-unquote last resort, the Great Depression would never happen. And that's what they did in '08. That would have been a depression if it weren't for the last resort. They bailed out the banks. They bailed out the companies, everyone, even the manufacturers, right? And now let's think about if this happens again. We screwed up the interest rate play because we kept it at 0 for 10 years. We can't play that, so we'd have to go into negative interest rates, which is a terrible idea. We can't bail out the banks again because it just won't work this time. And that's what's going to happen. They're not going to be able to bail out the banks, and we're going to have a depression. And that's the truth. It's going to be scary. It's going to be nasty, but it's going to happen. And again, it's just all cycles. It's market cycles. The entirety of the market is market cycles.
I think you're definitely right with the whole the whole idea that we are actually going to see like a much bigger recession than people are expecting, and then B, are even like anticipating in terms of like their jobs and all that stuff. I think it's going to be much worse than anybody's actually expecting, because when you kind of look back, and I don't know how old you guys are, but I'm like 20 years old and I can hardly remember back, but when I do remember back to 2008, it was really bad. And I do think, if you look at this chart right now, actually, let's look at the normal chart, SPX. Yeah, if you look at the normal, the macro chart and the really high time frames, it looks like fucking Bitcoin. That's not a good sign ever, right? Especially, when this one chart pretty much, is like responsible for majority of the wealth in the world, right? And I'm probably misusing that term, but I think you guys understand what I mean. Like, I don't think that there's any way that this can go higher without correcting. Can I be wrong? 100%. I'm not even an equities guy, right? But what I do trade a lot of is yen. And the reason why I'm bringing this up right now, and I'm really glad that Tristan touched on this right now, is if you kind of look at yen in relation to SPX, right? I'll actually just do it here. You can look at the yen futures, which is J6. And again, this is like pretty much Dixie for the yen. It's probably not the best way to describe it, but it gets the point across, right? It's pretty much inverse, as you can see, right? And right now, if you look at J6 as a future as itself, I always look at this chart because I trade like a lot of yen. It's not in my, I don't want to trade it right now, but if you look at this hourly time frame, right? It's not looking bearish, you know what I mean? I want to see it go much higher. If I actually pull up my macro chart on yen and show you guys what I'm talking about, I think it's going to be here or the next one. It's a J6 chart. Yeah, there we are. Monthly chart. What's troubling me right now is the fact that we have a lot of equal lows, and the liquidity is exactly the same in every market, right? Now, this is a really old chart, and I can definitely, prove it to you guys, but I'm not after your validation. I'm just trying to show you what I think the market's going to do. And I do think it's going to come down here, take out these stops. And now, why do I think it's going to do that regarding, the entire SPX and everything else that we just discussed? Reason why is because if you look at soy, for example, right? It's a commodity, and typically when you see the price rise, and soy looks kind of bullish. It doesn't look amazingly bullish, but looks kind of bullish, right? And kind of relate that to yen and what's actually happening inside the entire market overall, right? Look at some of the really higher time frames. As you can see, these lows down here, I don't know about you, but to me it correlates really well with the equal lows and equal highs on SPX, right? I really think if SPX does that, I think yen is going to do two things. I think it's going to either A, test this level and reject something like this, or yen's going to climb much higher and go for this level and reclaim it. I don't think it's going to reject this level. I think it's going to go much higher. Can it pull back? Yes, but I do. What I'm trying to say is it's eventually going to take that and reclaim it. Reason why I think that's going to happen is if you look at AJ on the higher time frames along with any other yen pair, like we can look at pound yen, whatever, right? If you look at these pairs, actually open a blank chart because this is from the Twitter one I made. Oh, no, yeah, this is fine. Now, if you look at this, on the monthly, right? This is not something to take lightly because both these currencies deal with equities, right? And they're kind of the polar opposites. I mean, obviously it's a little bit more complex than that. I'm really simplifying it, but you know, in the kind of capacity we're talking about this, it's giving you a swing high on the really, really high time frames, right? Because this is a head and shoulders, it kind of equates to swing high. Another way to look at this is by a range, right? Now look, if this is the range high up here, and this is the range low, right? And prices re-entered the range. This is kind of why I'm not too keen on euros for long as well, because it's came inside the range. If it does that, if it gives you that head and shoulders meme pattern, that fucking Peter Brandt shit, if you see shit like that happen, you know it's gonna go much, much lower because it's you know, it's not truly bullish because it failed to find support mid-range. If it was truly bullish, it would have found support and expanded away, right? I'll show you an example of that too on oil. But at the minute, because of everything the way it is, I do think it wants to go much, much lower. And when you kind of look at where the you know, the last flash crash wick was, it was literally right here, left equal lows. Is that random? I mean, if you've been trading for even over a year, do you really think the fucking market's random? And if the answer to that is yes, you probably need to do a little bit more studying because it's definitely not fucking random. It's very, very manipulated. Now, what's troubling me right now on AJ is the fact that we can go higher because we're totally void of this, you know, the dislike. And given the whole news, given everything, I want to see it go lower, then go higher. I want to see a run of these lows here. The reason why is because these are equal lows. A lot of liquidity is resting there right now. Everybody and their dad wants to see this go higher, right? Along with the SPX. A lot of people are really, really bullish on SPX. And when I say that, like, I'm talking like retail is really bullish here because they're seeing higher highs, right? But overall, a lot of people are super bearish on SPX too. So this move up here is going to cut them all out, and it's going to make everybody think that, you know, price wants to go higher. Correlating this back to AJ, let me pull the chart again.
Sorry to interrupt you, but euro is ripping.
How bad are we talking?
Hard.
Oh fuck, Jesus Christ. Yeah, that's definitely fucking out the way. Thank God I did not answer.
Bullish, baby.
Where do I think it's gonna go from here? Fuck, dude. I don't know. Would I trade this here? Fuck no, dude.
No, don't open it now. But 1.136 probably.
Up here?
So, yeah, 1.136.
You think it's gonna hit that big figure right there? Fucking hell, bro.
Yep.
You are so bullish on this shit. It's crazy. I mean, now I think it's possible. But, you know, if it's down there and was respecting that level, I probably would say no. But now, probably change my mind on that completely. Yeah, Dixie just dumped heavy. It's testing that zone we talked about. So, given the entire, you know, structure that we're looking at now, you know, do I think it's done? Probably not. I think it wants to do a pullback, and I do want to see an aggressive repricing on Dixie tomorrow. Does that mean we'll see that? Probably not. You know, it's just overall I'm looking at. Moving back to what we're talking about with AJ on the one chart. Reason why I'm really not keen on jumping in right now is because I can justify both arguments. And when I can do that, it's not a clear trade. It's not a clear trade. What's the point in trading it? There's 1,000 other markets I can trade. Why am I going to trade this? It's kind of like the Bitcoiners that only trade one market. They're like, my Bitcoin. It's like, the fuck? If you're really in this for money, you're not going to be focusing on Bitcoin, right? I mean, I've said so many times, I'm not in this for like anything else but the money, and I don't give a fuck about Bitcoin. I don't give a shit if it dies tomorrow or whatever. Like, I honestly don't care, right? I think when you kind of tie that into like what I'm talking about regarding this, I do think that price wants to go a little bit higher. And I know that's a very fucking weird pivot, but the reason why is because, you know, this level up here. So can I go lower? Yes. What do I want to see? A test of this level here. This is really what I'm looking at on the daily. Now, lower time frames, we do have like another level there, and I want to see if it can rip through it or not. And this structure here, what just happened right now is making me uncomfortable. I'm probably just gonna not trade for the rest of the week because that's a lie. I'll probably be up for London tomorrow, let's be honest. I like this pivot here. I want to see it go a little bit higher, test that level. I thought it was going to go much lower today. I don't think we're going to see that anymore unless we see a flip of this level. I want to see it go much, much higher, test that level, fill in this gap. From there, roughly 79, 200, I want to see it go much, much lower. If you see a swing high and if you see a loss of a level that we gained, so as always, you know, price goes up and it gains levels. See something like that happen, I'm going to obviously flip short, target these lows. At the minute, I'm sitting flat on this. That's why I've been intraday trading a lot. Tristan, what's your thoughts on SPX and yen pairs in general? Let me pull up your Discord super quick.
SPX, yeah. So I've been talking about this one for quite a bit on the futures. Two ideas here. Where is it? So the first one was these are both just like my journal ideas, but easy to show if I can find it. Maybe not. SPX, here we go. So SPX thoughts for journal. We basically had this monthly level, both looking at this monthly level potential rejection. But then I went on the futures and looked at the order flow, looked at the tape, and it basically was extremely bullish. It was just straight up. There was nothing pointing that we were diverging here and selling and that we should be shorting this level. So held it off, and I basically said, okay, it's pretty common now that we have these triple even highs here. We're going to sweep them and we're going to run for this block. And the reason why, and what we actually did, was we actually made a quadruple even high here and then even a double top here as well. Just so much liquidity above this. I would be very disappointed if this little move today was all we're going to get just to run the stops. I don't think that's the case because I'm looking for this retest of the high. But sweeping out these highs is in play. I don't think this is enough. There's so much liquidity above this, and so many people are going to switch bullish if we break this. And where we found support, same idea. We had come down. I even put on Twitter, said watch 2720. When we were like around here, it came down 2720 retest. And the reason why was if you just took an EQ of this old range here, we were going to come back to it. We did. We found support. We bounced. That's pretty bullish. So now what I really want to see is, as Goo was saying, fake out, bring above this, and if we're really, really going to be savage about this, it'll be an SFP. What that means is we're going to wick up here to clear these stops on a weekly and test this, but the body will close in here. If that happens, yeah, you better get short, boys, because this thing is going to sweep the low, in my opinion. The reason for that, we are a negative trend, right? This low here brought you to the high, okay? Before it was this low that brought you to the high, and before that, we could say, I guess, this low brought you to the high. So in order to be in bearish back here, you had to lose this swing low. Now, because we set a new swing low, you had to lose this swing low. Then we set a new swing low, right? So it had to be this swing low. So now that we broke this high, we set a new swing low. Now you have set your high. Well, we lost this swing low on this move. So now it needs to be broken. This swing high has to be taken out for bullish trend to continue. Once that happens, then you'd be looking, okay, do we just get a retest and then we take it long? That's no problem if we want to go higher. But it's every time we've lost the high like this on SPX, it's been pretty bearish. And I do think that this area here, 2870, 2890, is going to be a great shorting opportunity. It is where I will be shorting, taking out puts and such, because the risk to reward is there all day. And if you should at least get a reaction or to a point where you can get a break even on it. So that is no brainer for me. It's something I've been waiting for since December. And I am going to, stick with my plan on that trade. But ultimately, yeah, expect these swing highs to be taken and a retest here. If we do have, a recession, we do break down. First area you'd be watching obviously is here, but this area has already been tested, so it's not going to be that important level. You also have these even lows here that need to be taken out. These are at 1800. That'll be taken. Then you have your old highs from the basically 08 and 01 .com and mortgage crisis. And ultimately, this will be a very large bounce point where I'll be expecting some type of pretty deep retracement. But I do want these lows to be taken out, and I can't even get it on the futures. But if we go to
the SPX normal chart.
Exactly. If we go here, boys, this is my level, man. And why do I say this is my level if we had a depression, right? Is due to the fact that we'd sweep out these swing lows, which are obviously draws on price. There's risk even on this scale. And if we look, the market always wants to come back and test your ranges. Well, let's look at this, boys. What did we have here? We had a range. We had a reaccumulation. We range bound, and we expanded heavy, right? This is back in 1994. We expanded heavy. Did we ever get a retest of this? Here, pan it so you can actually see. Did we ever get a retest of this? No. No, we didn't. We got a retest of this level. Look at that. Look, this is how mesmerizing this gets, guys. And when people tell you you need all these... I can go back to the Great Depression, and this shit worked during the Great Depression, okay? Before any computers, technology, indicators were made. Let's look at this, boys. We had an untested reaccumulation here. And you want to know where the bottom of the '08 bubble is? You would have caught the bottom to the dollar, the breaker level right here.
No, bro, the SMFX broken liquidity brace. I don't want to copyright.
Oh, yeah. SMFX broken liquidity. Here we go. There we go, right there. Perfect. I'm speechless. Like, I'm literally speechless. How could you not be speechless by that? This is a index for the entire, pretty much the entire world.
You're cutting out,
the Dow Jones SPX. This is an index basically for the entire world economy. and it's that precise to that exact level. I mean, that's mesmerizing. It literally scares me. But yeah, this is the level at 470 that I'm watching. It'd also be an 88% retrace from the Great Depression to the high. If this is the high, set the high, would be around that 400 level. And if we have a depression, it will take out these lows because it'll be a full reset. And I guarantee anyone that thinks I'm crazy thought Bitcoin going down to 3K was crazy. And guess what? At 11.8K, I was threatened. I was called crazy. I was told I was an idiot. I was told I was a moron. I was told I was genuinely threatened.
That's fucking crazy.
And it went down to those levels. I said 4.5 for almost a year, and I got crazy. It's just mesmerizing that people are so naive. And so yeah, watching this 400, 450 level, if we did actually have a depression, and
just to kind of stop you here, homie. What's your thoughts in terms of the time duration it'll take to actually get down there?
Years.
Talking 10, 20, 30, what are you thinking? Just like a rough
number. Time is such a hard factor to predict. I really don't know. I mean, each recession here took about 3 years, so it's going to take longer than that, because what I would expect is probably take a couple years to get down to this point, and then we'd have a couple year retracement, right, to probably retest somewhere in here.
Yeah.
I would imagine there'd be some type of block.
Yeah.
And then a continuation. Because the market, guys, moves in stages, right? You have your distribution, your markdown, your redistribution, your markdown, or over here you'd be accumulation, markup, reaccumulation, markup into your distribution. So this would be distribution, markdown, redistribution, markdown, and then eventually accumulation, go up. So, yeah.
Yeah. So I honestly think by the end of the year we'll see some sort of like move down towards those equal lows, roughly at 2,000. I want to say. I think that's reasonable to expect. Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's going to be very expansive and really, really fast. I think it's going to be, initially, I want to see it be something like this. Let me actually pull up the SPX chart super quick. All right. Initially, I want to see it do something like this, right? Initially, the initial reaction I wanted to see is to be like this. Slowly start to grind down. Actually, never mind. I want to see like a fast expansive move down here. Then I want to see like a slow grind up here. And then another slow grind down. And this slow grind, I think, is going to cock everybody and make them think that it's going to make a new high. You'll see CNBC shelling it here somewhere. I promise you this is going to happen. You can hold me to it. Right? I think we're going to see something like that, followed by a retest. The second we see that retest, I think it's going to be very, very, very fast from there down to here. I think this portion, if this goes to plan, right, this portion of the move is going to take the entire year. And then towards the end of the year, I'm talking like the last 3-4 months, we're going to see this expansive move down here. That's what I want to see in terms of the market cycles and everything. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, because time, again, is really hard to predict unless you're trading intraday.
Right.
So that's what I'm looking at for this. What's that?
Almost. Oh, I said almost impossible to predict time.
Yeah. Especially for macro trends like this, I think it's very, very difficult. Now, moving on to US oil. Now, this one's been panning out absolutely perfectly, but ever since I fucked my account a while back with when I was working with Tristan, actually, I've sworn not to trade oil. I still think it wants to go much, much higher. I think 61.52 is the minimum of where it wants to go. Look at the weekly time frame. Reason why, again, super simple. Completely void of resistance on the way up. It's pretty much exactly the same as Dixie, just like, on a different level. I do think it wants to test this level. Reason why, monthly level, is we have this previous consolidation over here, and it's not been tested yet. It's went right through it, so typically when something like this happens, it becomes an SMFX broken liquidity base, if you will. Always we're talking about fucking breakers if you already don't know. But just in case. I think it wants to go up there. I honestly don't think it's got much resistance once it clears this level. I want to see a gain of 58.11. We see that happen, or maybe 58.10 just to be a little bit more symmetrical. We see that happen under test of that swing low. Really good long opportunity. Doesn't mean it's going to happen straight away. It could oscillate a little bit. That's also fine, because if you look at this leg, it's really been, it's been pretty expansive so far. So small, consolidation, maybe a retracement is kind of probable, especially when you kind of factor in that we also took out all this liquidity here. So some sort of reaction should be likely. I don't think it's going to be immediate. One of my friends are trying to actually short oil. I kept telling him not to. Not a good idea. Especially because how bullish this thing is. It's literally no resistance at all on the way up. Like, literally none. It's kind of like trading a shitcoin. When you see a pump and dump, exactly the same concept here, except it's like the inverse. So, there's no resistance, so it can climb right through it. What's your thought?
Yeah, I got burned. I got burned trying to short oil as well.
Dude, always been a fucking pain recently, dude. She's a bitch.
It's just in such a big range. It wasn't a range, breaking out of it. But oil, we had the daily highs here that were a draw. It's so funny because it on the lower time frame, long trend, but it on the higher time frame was, you know, basically just a SFP. So yeah, ultimately it played the upside move. Now what you'd want to see is, in my opinion, a retest to potentially get long. But I just don't love the chart until we get some clarity. It's been for in this range for almost 2 months. And ultimately, as you said, yeah, I'm 66 as the level. This move is inefficient. You're taking this swing high liquidity. We obviously need to first get a closes above here, because if this is just SFPs, then whatever, it's just gonna be like we had down here. But if we do get a couple dailies up here, then yeah, we'll have confirmed taking out this swing high, and we will be continuing higher and looking 66 in that area. On your daily, shorter term, there is some more moves to have, but let's look. This was tested. You do have a gap here. I actually didn't know. On the 4 hour, around 66.
I never noticed that.
Yeah, which actually fills your daily breaker level.
Yeah.
So yeah. I mean that looks like a good. That definitely looks like a good area to be looking to get short. But that could take some time. Oil generally obviously goes up in the summertime. If you're going by like seasonalities, because prices of gas, as you'll know, go up in the summertime. It's just because oil goes up in the summertime. They all go up in the summertime due to demand and everything. In the winter, it generally goes down, and that's, you know, obviously this move is during the winter. So what we could see for the remainder of maybe the next few months is a slow grind up to 66 before next fall into winter, potentially moving lower. Because with Goo and I have talked about, we did leave an even low here. We still have these triple even lows. It kind of looks like some Forex pairs that we call Ponzi's every day. And we'd be expecting that to get taken out and potentially come down into these 30s. So yeah, next year we could be taking these out, but for the remainder, as long as we can hold these levels, we could be potentially going to 66. But I think the next few months for oil are going to be extremely slow. I think it's going to be like a move like this, right? I mean, this was almost an entire year. I mean, price ranged between, you know, $15, which is still a lot, but months of trading in the big scheme of things, it's not. So yeah, that's what I think will be happening on oil. But 66 is definitely the level that we're looking potentially get short for continuation. Retest the distribution, fill that gap, retest this, and then we'd be looking at something like this, and then move lower to sweep. So yeah, that's oil.
Yeah, pretty much the same idea, man. I'm going to quickly shift your focus to dollar CAD, and I'm going to let you start with this because I know it's one of your favorite pairs.
Do I have the? Ooh, I do. All right, so Ponzi, I put out. I patented a pattern. I don't know where the picture is, but I like drew like a.
It's on your Twitter.
Yeah, I had a short here that I was looking to take with confirmation. Yeah, the thing missed. Oh shit! The thing missed by about like a pip. So very, very frustrated there. Now at TP2, so that's frustrating. But anyway, so we obviously had these highs here taken, and I was looking at first to short around this region. The reason why was I don't want to delete the chart, but if we look at this price action, it was very corrective, and I was expecting rejection here on all transparency around 1.33800. I actually got got short and stopped out. I was long from back around here for an intraday pay. I don't know if I have the chart, but it was an intraday play, and I took profit, got short, stopped out on this move. And ultimately, now what I want to see is we obviously had a retracement to our redistribution level. We finished filling the inefficiency in price. We came back and tested this localized redistribution, very small level. So what we need to see here on on USD CAD is really, do we hold these levels between 1.3275 and 1.33 big figure? If we're able to flip this, it'd be extremely bullish in my opinion, and we'd be looking to take out these highs. Otherwise, what more than likely is going to occur is what Goo and I originally wanted when we talked, which was slightly lower, this like 1295 area, to sweep out these lows that we came pretty shy of. We'll see though. This is the big SR flip. Let's just say 1325 to 133. If we can hold support here, I'd be expecting continuation. Then obviously your big level is going to be the move that led to your move down up here, all right, this level here, that level, we'll see what happens. Do we find resistance, which we will most likely find resistance? Do we then push higher? This price action, if we zoom out, is extremely corrective, just as you can see here, right? This is a great example of corrective price action that sells off. It's the same thing, corrective price action. It's going to sell off at some point, which will line up with our Dixie theory that I have. But do we get a new swing high and take out these highs and potentially come for here? It's possible. It's definitely there in the cards. I don't know. I'm not a fortune teller. I'm going to play this day by day. But the thing I'm watching at the moment is can pretty much we hold this 1325. That'll dictate to me whether USD CAD is going to continue higher for. The target would be 1355 to 136. So yeah, that's USD CAD.
Yeah, let me pull up my chart on her. So with a macro opinion, I totally agree, and I think it kind of works really well with what we have for oil as well. You know, oil going higher and kind of grinding up, right? Now, if I pull up the chart on USD CAD that we looked at last week, it didn't come down like I wanted it to. So, you know, it didn't work out. We ran these highs, and I definitely agree with you, bro. I'm looking at the same level for support. I would like to see support there. Obviously broke it now. So 4-hour time frame, I'm fairly sure there was a block. Obviously, Dixie dumped during the stream, so you know it's going to be a little bit more challenging to find this this level as I was trying to show you guys. But essentially over here, as Tristan said, I want to see this level hold if it's bullish. If it's not bullish, great. We can just short it and flip short down to here. This entire leg completely void of support. You know, it's gained no support on the way up, so it's going to be very easy for price to go right through it. Do I think it's going to take out this low? Yeah, I think it's possible. I mean, I don't think it's going to be immediate. I don't think it's going to be anything like this. I think it's going to be much more of a grind down there. I don't think it's going to be, you know, once we break this level, we're going to see some sort of retracement up. And then from there, I think that's going to be the key level. But at the minute, as Tristan said, you know, this is just a matter of waiting. And if I show you my intraday chart on this and give you guys a much more immediate opinion on this, this is what I was looking at. If it wants to open, nope, fucking brilliant. Swear to God, every time I'm doing a stream, it just literally every single time, it just wants to fuck up. This is what I was looking at. I was eyeing this level for a long earlier on today. Did not take it. I just did not feel right, especially with Dixie being the way it was. I just was not keen on the whole setup, so I just left it. That's why I closed my my trades early today. I wasn't really trusting the market. It just didn't feel right to me. For me to jump into a long, I want to see a flip of this level. This down move that led to the move up, that ran stops above this level. Once we see a flip of that level, see something like this happen, I'll long it. Till then, I'm more so bearish. What's troubling me is the fact that we've penetrated through all the monthly levels, and now we're going down to the daily levels. Now, we've even taken that out, so I do think the daily block down here, which is what we talked about initially, and the weekly level is going to be the next year's support. Untested levels here, I'm probably going to get a fucking lawsuit for the amount of sauce I'm spilling, but like untested level here, as you can see, it's not being touched, so I do think it wants to, eventually make its way down there. Does that mean we might not see a retracement up? I think it's very possible that tomorrow we could see some sort of retracement up because we've seen a lot of expansion today to the downside, so I think it's very likely that we do see something like this and then much lower. Initially, again, I was much more bullish, but at the minute, obviously bias is flipped. Really low time frames, how would I trade this? Again, completely void of resistance. We see a flip of this level, I'll long up to there, to the monthly level. I'd say probably higher up to here, because then it takes out these stops, fills in this gap, and then does a pullback and then continue selling it. For me to flip bias on this completely and look for longs, what do I need to see happen? This level here on the 4-hour needs to be gained. Why this level? Because before this level, this whole thing was a pullback, but this level is what caused it to not be a pullback anymore. It must be made it much more of a stronger pullback. It's technically broken market structure in the lower time frames, right? It's not a great example, but that's the essential idea. I do think it wants to hunt a little bit lower, pop its head a little bit lower. I think lower time frame, we're going to see something like a W reversal, something like this is what I'm looking at. I want to see price go a little higher, test this level, project it, come lower, go up again, go much lower, and then from there go higher, something like that. That's the kind of structure I'm looking at for $CAD. Does that mean we'll get it? Probably not. Doesn't even matter, because in the end of the day, we're just looking for directional bias, and if you can jump on the directional bias, you're going to make money. That's just the reality of all this. So yeah. Do you want to do any other pairs, or do you want to just call it here?
I think we're good unless anyone had a request.
Let's go peek.
Let's see what comments we had as well. Brad Hayes said, hey, what's up? What's good, what's good? Civil, no rap, I don't know.
No,
I'm not a rapper. I'm just a trader. Jake says one Lambo. tomorrow. Let's see. Were there any thoughts on ICT finally getting exposed? Dominic says.
Yeah, what actually
Yeah.
happened regarding the whole
I don't know what actually. Wait, what happened?
Well, I'm asking you what happened because like it went really silent recently, which is pretty strange, right?
I mean, the only thing I know, the fact with the cash guy is that's all I know.
The cash guy. Oh yeah. He offered like SE and stuff, and then he got into like,
$180,000 bet.
What the fuck? When was this?
A few days ago. Then
Bro, I've literally
said,
been like no paying attention. I've not been paying any
yeah,
attention.
Yeah. So like a few days ago, ICT said yes. The guy was like, we're gonna trade, and the prize will be 180K in escrow. Bullshit. He sent pictures on Twitter. This guy put pictures on Twitter of his broker statements, legitimate broker statements.
Yeah, dollar farm, right?
$6 million. Yeah.
That's fucking crazy, man. What do you think is gonna happen? Who do you think is gonna win? I think it's possible ICT actually wins.
I think ICT wins just because he's actually knows what he's talking about, but his problem is his egos.
Yeah.
Like genuinely, like it's a blessing in disguise, and it's something I had to get over. Big fucking ego, and I'm an emotional person. But like you need to get over the fact that you're gonna be wrong in the market. Everyone's gonna be wrong. That's gonna happen, right? Just shrug it off and just go to the next one. You're not going to be perfect. No one is. And ultimately, I think ICT thinks he's the best because he acts like he's the best. He like almost like psychologically conditioned himself to, and that's good for marketing for his business. Yeah. Like the guy's a genius when it comes to sales. And I actually talked to PA Palace earlier with someone talking about how they hate him. And I was like, well, yeah, I mean, everyone hates him, but like, think about it. Everyone talks about him. And he's genius for it. Do I think he has a ton of holes in his strategy? And I hope you're listening, motherfucker. Come at me. Let's have a little trade off. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, I'm not kidding. I mean, I'm down. Anyway, so I think he's a lot of fucking
competition, bro. That's really out there.
I think he has a lot of holes in his trading.
I don't know.
I think that he rebranded a lot of concepts.
A certain somebody, bro.
Yes, somewhat. But I agree with that person because I also think that he branded a lot of shit because all price action trading, boys and girls, goes back to Wyckoff. And Wyckoff is the first person that actually understood, him and a little bit of Jesse Livermore, that understood that the markets were quote unquote manipulated, if you want to call it that, and that you could take advantage of that manipulation, be on the right side of the manipulation and be on the right side of trades. And he wrote about that a century ago. He wrote about accumulation distribution. Someone actually brought up a good point on my Trading View post, and that like a lot of people took those Wyckoff concepts and rebranded it and did all these schematics and all this bullshit that isn't actually Wyckoff, right? If you actually read the Day Trading Bible, you can get it for free online on Wyckoff SMI, I want to say is the site. It's from like 1919. The guy supposedly was killed over it. There's a lot of conspiracy that goes around it, but ultimately, the guy's an utter genius. He's the one that is the forefront for price action trading, for understanding market structure, and everyone and everything relates back to that, relates back to the idea of accumulation and distribution. And that's the most important thing in trading. So that's my thought process there. Whale blocks, yep, trademark pending. Rectangle trade. We did oil. Well,
See, that's the whole idea. Somebody said buy gold, they can't print it. You can print fucking everything. Like, see, when people say Bitcoin's like limited and shit, it's fucking retarded. Like, the second you have a futures market of anything, or it's paired with fiat, a bank can print money for it, and like people just feel to like acknowledge this whole idea, and it's really silly because it's not like fucking average Joe from Coinbase is moving fucking Bitcoin. That's not how it works. It's like some sort of fucking algorithm or the exchanges that's moving Bitcoin. It's nothing else. And people just don't want to accept that. Like, it's not decentralized. And I don't really give a fuck what anybody says. It's just not, because it can't be if it's paired with fiat centralized currency. If that's your, entry into the token. And obviously some people are going to say, yeah, you can buy outlets and shit. But when the vast majority of the money is coming in from like other...
It's coming in dollars.
Exactly, yeah. It's coming in from like centralized currencies. There's no way it can actually be truly centralized.
And you got to ask yourself, if the dollar went to zero...
You cut out, bro.
Like, if the dollar went to zero, what would Bitcoin be worth? Because it's based upon dollar valuation.
Exactly.
Right? So, I mean, I guess you could say that we would have to then, use our Bitcoins to buy shit. But then who determines how much a Bitcoin's worth? Like, is a Bitcoin a car, or is a Bitcoin an apple? You know what I mean? There's so many flaws with this.
This is the new money in the global economy.
Banks have been
gonna
running this shit
change
for
the world.
years and years.
Yeah.
There's no way they're gonna
Yo,
fucking
oh
stop
my
because
God.
like some
Yo,
guy
screw the
signs something.
banks. We're gonna outsmart them. We're gonna take them over. The people's money.
Come on, boys. The banks. You think they don't like? Come on. You don't think they have a large stake in Bitcoin? Come on. Let's get off our fucking LSD and start like thinking about logic here and reality for a second, okay? If the banks control the markets, if the markets are manipulated, if the entirety of the world is a lie and manipulated, you think, come on. I'm not even going to go further than that. It's just ridiculous. But
Yeah.
I could
While
go
you
on
guys
a
are still
20-minute
here,
tangent.
can I quickly get a quick like? Because, you know, we've taken time out of our day just to kind of, you know, make the stream, and we just put a fucking lot of sauce on this. Like, we could probably get copyrighted. Like, I'm not even joking. Like, the amount of shit that we've talked about here, we could probably definitely get copyrighted.
What, Richard D. Wyckoff going to come back?
Oh, you never know, bro. You never know. Fucking
Yeah, yo.
Mr. Stew Your Trend is gonna come back, bro.
German says, I wish Tristan could always talk like this. Sounds like a age sales pitch.
Listen up, German. I want you to get on here and rap real quick.
Yeah, but I think we're gonna call it a day at that. It's been a pretty good stream so far, and you know, thank you guys for joining and being a part of it. Drop a quick like; it helps me out a lot. If you guys are looking for a good broker down here, I'm not gonna shill it. I'm wanting to shilling, but if you're looking for a good broker down there, trust me. Have a great day, guys, and you know, good luck trading. Peace.
Yeah.